Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real today, something from experience, not just inspiration. Life will break you. It'll throw stuff at you that you didn't ask for. It'll put you on your knees. And some days you'll want to stay down. But here's the truth. Being broken is not the end. It's a beginning. You see, when God allows things to fall apart in your life, it's not to destroy you. It's to rebuild you into something stronger than you ever imagined. A broken season does not mean a broken future. Just because you're going through something right now that feels like it's tearing your world apart doesn't mean that's how your story ends. We all have seasons in life. Some of them bring joy, celebration, and success, while others bring loss, heartbreak, confusion, and pain. But one season is not your entire life. It's just a chapter, not the whole book. And let me tell you from experience, no matter how deep the pit feels, no matter how dark the tunnel gets, it doesn't mean your destination has changed. The storm you're facing right now might be loud, it might be scary, and it might be shaking every corner of your life. But that doesn't mean you're finished. That doesn't mean you can't come out better, wiser, and more determined than you've ever been. I remember when I was going through my lowest season, it felt like I'd been dropped off in the middle of nowhere with no map, no directions, and no way out. I didn't know what was next. I didn't know how I was going to survive. I felt broken. But even in that moment, sleeping in my car, wondering if I had made the biggest mistake chasing my dream instead of settling for comfort, I had this tiny voice inside me that said, "This ain't it. This ain't the end." You see, just because something broke in your life, your marriage, your business, your trust, your spirit, it doesn't mean you're broken beyond repair. In fact, it means there's room for something new to be built, something stronger, something more real. It's during those broken seasons that you get stripped down to your true foundation, and that's where real rebuilding begins. People think that broken means useless, but that's not true. Sometimes you got to break to get free. You got to break to get out of a mindset that's been holding you back. You got to break to realize that what you were holding on to was never meant to go with you into your next chapter. That relationship that fell apart, that job that fired you, that friend that betrayed you, those may have been necessary losses, not punishments, just divine redirections. And if you're still breathing, if you still woke up today, it means God ain't finished with you. He's just doing renovations on your life. The construction might be loud. It might feel messy. It might not look good right now, but when it's done, you're going to stand taller. You're going to be stronger. You're going to carry yourself with a kind of wisdom and peace that only people who've been through the fire understand. I want you to know that feeling broken doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. It makes you real. And real people, authentic, scarred, honest people, they're the ones who go on to lead, to inspire, and to rebuild things that last. Not in spite of their brokenness, but because of it. You gain something in the rebuilding process that you can't get anywhere else. You gain grit. You gain clarity, you gain appreciation, you learn to value peace over noise, truth over convenience, growth over comfort. And that kind of shift, it doesn't happen in the good seasons. It happens when you're down and you choose not to give up. It happens when the world counts you out and you still show up. It happens when you've got every reason to stop believing, but you decide to believe anyway. That's where the power lives. That's where your real strength is born. You are allowed to start over, this time with wisdom. Starting over isn't failure, it's freedom. It's not something to be ashamed of, it's something to be proud of. A lot of people stay stuck in situations that no longer serve them just because they're afraid of what others will think if they decide to begin again. They stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, mindsets that limit them, all because they cling into a version of life that once made sense, but no longer fits who they've become. But here's the truth. Growth will always require movement, and sometimes that means stepping away from the familiar and into the unknown. That's scary, yes, but it's also where your real power is. When you make the decision to start again, to wipe the slate clean and rebuild from the ground up, you're not going back to square one. You're stepping forward with lessons that you earned the hard way. There's something beautiful about the second time around, or the third, or the fifth. The version of you that's starting over isn't the same as the version that tried before. You're wiser now. You've seen some things. You've failed. You've fallen. You've been disappointed. But you've also survived. And that survival gave you insight. Now you know what you want and what you won't tolerate. You know what makes you come alive and what drains your soul. You know the difference between temporary excitement and lasting peace. All of that wisdom becomes your foundation the second time around. And when you build on that kind of foundation, you build something real. You don't have to make the same mistakes. You don't have to keep playing small to keep other people comfortable. You don't have to carry shame for the dream that didn't work out. Starting over means releasing what no longer fits and stepping into what finally does. The world will tell you that time lost is a tragedy, but I'll tell you that time lived, even through pain, even through loss, is never wasted if you learned something from it. You are not behind, you are not late, you are right on time for a new beginning. Some of the most successful people in the world started over again and again. They failed in public. They were laughed at, they were doubted. But they didn't let that stop them because they knew that failure isn't final unless you let it be. Starting over isn't a step backwards, it's a powerful declaration that you know your worth, that you believe there's more for you, and that you're willing to do the hard work to go get it. Don't let fear talk you out of your restart. Fear will say, what if it doesn't work this time? But faith says, what if it does? Fear will tell you, you've already tried, but faith reminds you, you've never tried as the person you are now. Starting over requires courage, but you got that in you. It's already there. Every time life knocked you down and you got back up, you were practicing resilience. Every time something ended and you kept moving forward, you were preparing yourself for this very moment. This is your moment to start again, to take what you've been through and turn it into something new. You don't have to explain your decision to anyone. You don't have to wait for permission. You are allowed to start over, and this time, you do it with your eyes open, your heart guarded, and your spirit focused. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. Pain is a tool, not a prison. Most people try to run from pain, bury it, numb it, or pretend it doesn't exist. But pain has a purpose, and when you learn how to sit with it instead of avoid it, that's when it begins to shape you into something greater. The hard moments in life, the heartbreaks, the disappointments, the betrayals, they are not there to imprison your soul. They are there to teach you. You learn who you really are when you're hurting. You discover the depth of your strength, the power of your will, the sharpness of your faith, all in the fire. See, pain doesn't come to keep you stuck. It comes to give you clarity. It comes to strip away the illusions and the lies, to wake you up to what matters most. People often think that if they're hurting, something must be wrong with them, like they're weak or broken or less than. But some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are the ones who felt the most pain and decided to grow from it. You treat pain like a teacher instead of a life sentence, everything changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me, and start asking, what can I learn from this? That shift in perspective gives you control back. It doesn't erase the hurt, but it gives the hurt meaning. It gives the struggle value. You start seeing how that heartbreak taught you how to love yourself better. You start realizing that loss taught you how to appreciate what's really important. You start recognizing that failure taught you how to move with more wisdom. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared. Life doesn't waste pain, it always plants it in the soil of growth. The problem is when we think pain is permanent, we start building our identity around it. We start saying, I'll never heal, I'll never trust again, I'll never get back up. But the truth is, pain is meant to pass through, not take up residence. You don't have to build your home in the middle of your suffering. You got to be bold enough to look your pain in the face and say, you may have hurt me, but you won't hold me. That's where healing begins. That's when you begin to rebuild. Not from a place of fear or resentment, but from a place of understanding and power. Every scar you carry is not a sign of weakness. It's a symbol that you survived something that tried to destroy you. And now you know better. Now you move different. You love deeper, not because you're naive, but because you've seen the worst and chose to keep your heart open anyway. That's courage, that's strength, that's growth. People who avoid pain never grow. They stay in the same cycles, making the same mistakes, blaming the world for their bitterness. But people who face pain, process it, and rise from it, they become the builders, the leaders, the ones others look to for wisdom and comfort. Because they've lived it. They've walked through the valley and came out carrying something useful. If you're in a season of pain right now, understand that it won't last forever. But don't waste it. Don't bury it or ignore it. Let it shape you. Let it build you. Let it chisel away the things in you that can't go to the next level. You are not being broken down. You're being rebuilt. And pain is just a tool being used to do the refining. You will come out of this wiser, tougher, more grounded, and more real than you've ever been. Surround yourself with people who feed your spirit. The people you keep around you have the power to either build you up or break you down. And that power is not something to take lightly. You can have the biggest dream in the world, the strongest work ethic, the purest intentions. But if you're constantly surrounded by people who doubt you, drain you, or distract you, you're going to feel stuck. You can't fly when you're chained to negativity. You can't rebuild yourself in an environment that doesn't support your growth. Too many people hold on to toxic friendships, unhealthy relationships, and draining conversations out of habit, loyalty, or fear. But your future requires protection, and that starts with the circle you keep. If they don't speak life into you, challenge you to grow, or remind you of your purpose, then they're not helping. They're holding you back. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Just because someone's been in your life a long time doesn't mean they belong in your next chapter. Some people were meant to teach you a lesson, not take the journey with you. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you don't care about them. It means you care enough about yourself to be selective about your energy. Your spirit is too valuable to be surrounded by people who only take from it. You need people who pour back into you. People who challenge you to be better without shaming you. People who pray for you behind your back and support you when you're not in the room. People who see your worth even when you forget it yourself. That kind of community doesn't just lift you up, it protects your mindset, fuels your discipline, and strengthens your purpose. One of the reasons people struggle to rebuild is because they keep going back to the same environment that broke them. You can't heal in the same space that hurt you. You gotta change the soil if you want to grow different fruit. That means being intentional about who you let influence your thoughts, your time, and your heart. Some people only come around to feed their own ego, not your vision. They disguise their discouragement as concern, their envy as honesty, and their criticism as advice. But if it always leaves you feeling smaller, less certain, and more confused, it's not love, it's sabotage. And sometimes The hardest part of growth is realizing that certain connections no longer serve who you're becoming. But when you do find the right people, the ones who see your light and help you keep it burning, that's when everything begins to shift. You start thinking bigger. You start walking with more confidence. You stop shrinking yourself to fit in rooms you've outgrown. A good circle will remind you who you are on the days when you forget. They'll speak to your destiny, not just your circumstance. They'll help you rebuild, not by doing the work for you, but by standing beside you, encouraging you, and celebrating every step forward, no matter how small. Energy is contagious, and when you're surrounded by people who are growing, healing, and pushing forward, you can't help but rise with them. This kind of support system isn't built overnight. It takes discernment, patience, and boundaries. But it's worth it because life gets heavy and you need people who won't let you carry it all alone. You need voices around you that echo your faith when yours is shaky, that remind you of your strength when you're tired, that speak possibilities when all you see are limitations. Rebuilding yourself is already hard work. You don't need to do it in a space full of noise, doubt, and distraction. Choose people who make your spirit lighter, your vision clearer, and your purpose louder. Let your past refine you, not define you. Too many people live their lives chained to yesterday, carrying the weight of mistakes, regrets, failures, and losses like a permanent identity. They look in the mirror and don't see who they are, they see what they've been through. But your past is not your label, it's not your life sentence, it's your classroom. Every painful moment, every closed door, every tear you cried, and every wrong turn you took has value, but that value comes from how you use it, not how you wear it. You've got to decide that your past will be your fuel, not your prison. That what you've gone through will shape you, not shatter you. The moment you begin to see your past as a tool for refinement is the moment you reclaim your power. People often think that the bad chapters in their lives disqualify them from success, from love, from healing, from growth. But what if it's those exact chapters that equipped you for the greatness that's ahead of you? Think about it. How would you know strength without struggle? How would you know wisdom without making the wrong choices first? How would you know peace if you hadn't walked through chaos? The past gives context to your growth. It reveals what you've overcome. It shows your capacity to endure, to evolve, to become. But only if you let it refine you. Refinement is a process of removing what doesn't belong so that the true, pure version of you can emerge. That's what pain does. That's what failure does. It burns away the parts of you that aren't rooted in truth so you can become who you were always meant to be. There's a difference between remembering your past and reliving it. Reflection leads to wisdom. Replaying leads to torment. Too many people are stuck on a loop of regret, constantly hitting rewind on what they should have done, what they could have said, how they could have acted differently. But life doesn't move backwards. You can't rewrite yesterday. You can only decide how you're going to move forward with the lessons yesterday taught you. Every time you remind yourself of what went wrong, remind yourself what you gained from it. Maybe it built your patience. Maybe it taught you compassion. Maybe it showed you your boundaries. Whatever it gave you, hold on to that, not the pain. That's how you turn your past into purpose. It's easy to let failure define you when the world loves to remind you of what you didn't do, how you messed up, or where you fell short. But you've got to learn to speak louder than those voices. You've got to be the one who says, yes, I went through that, but I'm still standing. Yes, I made mistakes, but I learned. Yes, I lost things, but I gained myself. That kind of mindset takes intentional effort. It takes grace, forgiveness, and a commitment to growth. But when you let your past refine you, you walk into your future with clarity. You stop being afraid of falling again because now you know how to get back up. You stop shrinking from your dreams because you've seen how far you've already come. You stop letting shame write your story because now you realize you're the author. You don't need to erase your past to rise above it. You need to understand it, learn from it, and then use it as a foundation. The pain you survived can now become the wisdom you share. The struggle you overcame can now become the strength you carry. You are not the same person you were back then, and that's the point. Growth is the evidence that the past didn't destroy you. It refined you, sharpened you, made you more real, more grounded, more ready for what's next. The version of you after the rebuild will be stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. When life knocks you down and breaks you apart, it doesn't mean you're done. It means you're about to be reassembled in a way that's more powerful than ever before. The process of rebuilding is never easy. It's uncomfortable, it's painful, and it often feels lonely. But it's in those moments when everything has fallen apart that something deeper begins to grow. You start to see things differently. You stop living to impress and start living to express. You stop chasing things that were never meant for you and begin to focus on what really matters. The pain that once felt like punishment becomes your reminder of how far you've come. And each scar becomes a badge of survival that says you didn't give up. When you rebuild yourself, you're not just trying to put things back the way they were. You're constructing a new version of you, one that isn't defined by fear or limited by your past. You become someone who walks with intention, who speaks with clarity, and who lives with purpose. The doubts that used to paralyze you begin to lose their power. The voices that once kept you small get drowned out by the new voice inside you that says, I am enough. You stop needing approval and start giving yourself permission. That kind of transformation doesn't come from comfort. It comes from breaking, healing, and choosing to rise every single time you fall. The strength that shows up after the rebuild isn't loud. It's not about pretending you've got it all figured out. It's quiet, grounded, and unshakable. It's knowing who you are even when everything around you is uncertain. It's trusting yourself even when the outcome is unclear. It's showing up even when nobody's clapping. You learn how to depend on yourself, how to advocate for your growth, and how to protect your peace. And more than that, you become the kind of person who helps others rebuild too. Not because you read about it in a book, but because you lived it in your bones. The wisdom you carry now isn't theoretical, it's earned. You know what it feels like to be broken, and that gives your strength depth. You also learn patience through the rebuilding. You understand that growth doesn't happen overnight. You stop looking for shortcuts and start trusting the process. You realize that every step forward, even the slow ones, is still progress. That wisdom keeps you from quitting too soon. It reminds you that rebuilding is not about perfection, it's about perseverance. Every time you fall and get back up, you're becoming more resilient. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're reinforcing your foundation. And over time, that consistency builds a version of you that doesn't crack under pressure, doesn't fold when things get hard, and doesn't settle for less than what you deserve. You also become unstoppable because now you have a reason. You're not doing this just to prove someone wrong. You're not chasing validation. You're rebuilding because you finally realize your value. You understand that your time, your energy, your peace, they matter. You stop giving access to people who only bring chaos. You protect your focus like it's sacred because now you know it is. That unstoppable version of you doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't doubt. They move differently because they've earned the right to. They've lived through things that would have destroyed them before, but now they rise with grace and power. They don't need to announce their comeback. It's written all over their presence. They don't need to explain what they've been through. Their actions say it all.